What's going on? This is King Cam on King Cam's Ujumbe's podcast. Ujumbe means message, and the message is African history, community service, and self care. Today, we're going to discuss the mountains of the moon. Yes, the mountains of the moon. Did you know that the ancient Egyptians had their own origin story? Yeah. According to the Papyrus of Hunefer, it says we came from the beginning of the mount of the Nile, where God happy dwells at the foothills of the mountains of the moon. Where did the Nile River begin? It began there at the mountains of the foothills of the mountains of the moon. The mountains of the moon are the Rwenzori Mountains. That's the source of the Nile River. The highest peak is 16,762 feet. And this mountain range is called the Massifs. The mountains of the moon uh, makes a bowl. There's six major mountains located in one place or one major area. That's Uganda and Congo, right? And it ranges from tropical rainforest all the way up to snow. Mount Stanley is 16,762 feet. Mount Speke is 16,040 feet. Mount Baker, 15,889 feet. Mount Emin, 15,741 feet. And Mount Gizzi, 50,469 feet. And get this, for my Mario fans, Mount Luigi, 15,180 feet. And a notable mention, Mount Kilimanjaro. All these vast and high mountains produced a bowl where the Nile River began. We came from the foothills of the mountains of the moon. That's what the Egyptians said. All of this produced a place where, with the rainfall coming down and the ice melting from those snow-capped mountains, it caused the Nile River, to get this, to flow from south to north. See, most rivers, all rivers except for the Nile River, flows from north to south. The Nile River flows from south to north. How many miles? About 4,139 miles. It flows from south to north, so large that you can fit the whole United States, 2,800 miles of the United States, and still have room. So, the Egyptians already gave their origin story. We came from the foothills of the mountains of the moon where God happy dwells. It was a massive count, 6 major mountains in one massive area in Congo, in Uganda. And they said that's where we came from. They wrote it in the Papyrus of Hunefer. Now, the Nile River gave birth to 3 major civilizations. 3 major civilizations. Okay? That is the Ethiopians, Egyptians, and the Sudanese. Now, over time, the Nile River developed these people. Ethiopia was originally called Abyssinia or Aksum. Sudan originally was called Nubia, Kush, or ancient Meroe. And of course, Egypt was also originally called Kemet, the land of the blacks. As time went on and the knowledge of math and science and architecture and agriculture, law, philosophy was passed down from Ethiopia to Nubia, from Nubia finally to Egypt. According to Dr. Ben, in his book, Black Man of the Nile and His Family, these people established a high culture thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years ago. So long before the pharaohs, long before King Tut, King Ramses, these people, the Ethiopians, already had what Dr. Ben called a high culture. Where was it established? It was established in Central and East Africa, not North Africa, close to where Europe. It was in Central East Africa, foothills of the mountains of the moon, in the Uganda area, in Kenya, right around there. So they had a high culture. Now gave birth to 3 major civilizations, beginning with the grandmother, Ethiopia, the daughter, Nubia, and the granddaughter, Egypt. Now, before the pharaohs, there was a long list of kings and queens in Ethiopia and Sudan. Some of the ancient Egyptian deities at the time were real people. Did you know that? They was actually real individuals that lived real lives, had real struggles just like everybody else. But over time, their real lives became legend became myth, and now they're deified. Osiris was a real person, and Horus was even a real person. Tahuti was a real person. Okay, John Jackson, in his book Introduction to African Civilization, the high culture was established tens of thousands of years ago to where they ruled the land for a long period of time. Horus or Heru was renowned and respected. Kings that came after him gave themselves the title of Horus or the followers of Horus. Once that time was over, here comes the pharaohs. So we have, according to Dr. Ben and many sources, even the Egyptians, they had a high culture long before the pharaohs. Okay, they had three major civilizations established by the Nile: Ethiopia, Nubia, and Egypt. They're 4,000 plus miles. It just didn't start with Egypt. It began in Ethiopia. And the only difference is Egypt put it all in stone. So we had all these kings and queens and kingdoms. And so, there was some division there. Who united them? King Menes or Aha, he realized that Egypt, even though they had a high culture, they had science, mathematics, and everything they needed, they had to be united. Sounds familiar? We're very bright, have a lot of things going on, but we as a people have to unite, realizing that we are our only hope. So King Menes, he was another Nubian. He united Egypt. Egypt was divided between Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. Remember, the Nile River flowed from where? South to north. That means the Upper Egypt was the southern part. That was Sudan and Nubia and Ethiopia. That was they're called the Upper Egypt. The Lower Egypt was the north, which is what we see now today, the Nile Delta and Giza and so on. What did he do? He united them, and because of that, he received the grand title of the King of the North and South. Guess what? His wife got the title of the Lady of the North and South. So we have three major kingdoms, one after the other: Ethiopia, Nubia, and finally Egypt. All was going up and down the Nile River, 4,100 plus miles. Egypt was taught by Nubia, and Nubia was taught by Ethiopia. They all began down south in Uganda, foothills of the mountains of the moon. So now the Nile gave birth to these high cultures. Egypt was once divided, but then it was united by one person. Right? My name is King Cam. Thanks for listening to Ujumbe's King Cam's Ujumbe's podcast. I am the new radio host for Midnight Oil with King Cam on National Saving Fatherhood Radio. You can check me out on Twitter, Marcus Speaks 1, or on Instagram, Marcus Speaks. And I will talk to you soon. Peace.